Instagram. This is Sharice Josie, and I am here for our Grown Woman Chat. So tonight we are going to talk about silence and suffering. As I go through kind of the introduction and those types of things, if you think women suffer in silence, I want you just to put a 1 in the chat. All right, if you think women suffer in silence, put a 1 in the chat. So I like to speak with the grown woman. And actually, this topic is the reason why I started my business. I started my business to work with the grown woman. And this is a woman who often is not a place to go when she has something going on. And we're going to talk about the whys during this live. Feel free to like, comment, share. I want us to be interactive. I want to know what you're thinking. But this topic is why I started CJ Counseling and Consulting Services, because I wanted to create a space for women to be able to talk. So I started out with workshops. I have a counseling business now, and I'm going to continue with the workshop and just other ways just to create a space to talk. So this is also an opportunity. I tell people all the time, my DMs are open. If you have questions or a topic or just something that resonated with you after live, feel free to hit me up in the DMs and we'll talk about it. All right. So if you think women suffer in silence, just drop a 1 in the comments and just let me know, like, yeah, I think so. Now, I made a post and I said the term suffer can be relative, right? We can all have our different definitions of what suffering means. And so however that means to you, this is what I'm talking about. So do I mean suffering like can't function? Typically, no. And usually that's not the women that I'm talking to. I'm talking to my high functioning women who are my go-getters, my entrepreneurs, the women who have to work full time, got a side hustle, got kids, got a spouse, woman who is living alone, who has whatever her own goals are, but saying, I don't know who to call when I'm going through something. That is my target. So when I say suffer, that's what I mean. Just someone is like, who can I call when I'm having this difficult time? So if you think a woman suffers, just drop a 1 in the comment. And if you think so, if you think it's true that women often suffer in silence, tell me why you think that is. Just drop just a few adjectives, a few something. Let me know, why do you think women do suffer in silence? And again, I want you to define suffering the way that you want to, not my definition. I don't even really care what Google says right now about that. Just do they and why? Just drop some in the comments. So historically, right, Black women, women of color, we weren't able to speak up, right? That means if we had a voice, if we had an opinion, that means that we had value. And no one wanted us to have value in that way. Value in our purpose and what we can do, but not value in our voice. So historically, that's where that started, right? And then as time continued, as we started to evolve in certain ways. We have a lot of work to do. But as we start to evolve in certain ways, then when we start to use our voice, you know what? I have a voice now, right? I'm going to stand up now. I'm going to say what I feel. Now we are labeled loud. We are labeled aggressive. We are labeled difficult. We are labeled, oh my gosh, I don't know how to talk to her. Give me some more, drop some more things in the comments and let me know, what other labels have we had when we started to speak up, when we started to use our voice. And now we had to fight those labels, right? Now we had to fight those things. We went from not using our voice to learning to use our voice for it to be misconstrued. And now we're back to, well, then what do I do, right? How do I speak up? And then this where things start to get confusing, right? So now we're in our childhood and there's actually mixed messages sometimes from our parents with good intent. I'm sure with my daughters, they are confused more often than not. And sometimes even in my head, I'm thinking, what was I trying to say? Or what was my point? Or didn't I tell them to do things a few times? In our childhood, either we couldn't speak up because we're being disrespectful. And then there was other times, well, tell me what's wrong with you, right? But then When you say what's wrong, then that might be an issue, either how you said it or depending on the topic that was wrong, right? And so that becomes confusing. Then, like, should I speak up? Don't speak up? Keep it to myself, but don't have attitude? Like, then what do I do, right? Though now we're not sure how do we deal with these emotions? How do we deal with these feelings that are happening? And then where do we? That becomes important, how we show up in our relationships, how we use our voice, or how we do not. Okay, so if you were the child that grew up and your label was the responsible child, right? That means that you became a caretaker of either the home, or you became a caretaker of people. So either your siblings, your parents, or you're just behind the scenes and just make sure things are together, right? So I was a responsible child. Even though I'm the youngest, I have an older brother, only 19 months apart, so not a huge age gap. But if you're the responsible child, right, then the responsible child becomes the one who does not want to disappoint. Because then who does everyone else need to go to? Who can my parents rely on? Who can my siblings rely on? Right? So then you don't want to disappoint. So now the burden comes on you. So I want you to imagine that this is a brick on your lap. And I want you to label the brick, I'm the responsible child. And then I want you to label another brick, I'm the caretaker. If we were to break apart with all that, you would probably have a lot of bricks, right? So now, as we become adults, and again, this is my grown woman talking about, as we become adults, now we become the woman who has to figure it out, right? So she is the successful career woman. She is the entrepreneur. She is the one that may fall down, cry, and be disappointed, but she's going to suck it up, take a moment, and get back into the swing of things like nothing ever happened, right? She may tell a handful of people. If you're very, very close to her, she'll tell you otherwise. No, she'll keep herself, she'll deal with it, and then she'll move on, right? She's the one that has it all together for her family and for friends from their perception. Now, she's going to disappoint. We're going back to the responsible child, right? We're going back to her. Can I break down? Am I okay if not doing well? Maybe, maybe not, right? And so now this woman is also the one who's full of wisdom, and she provides guidance to other people. She is the go-to, right, for everyone. So now we're playing into that silence and suffering, right? And what I said is my biggest secret is because can I raise my hand and say that I'm suffering? Can I raise my hand and say that I'm having a hard time? And that might be hard for a lot of us to do, right? One, who has the time, right? Friends are busy, I'm busy, those types of things. And then who can listen, who wants to listen? And then also, what type of feedback do I want? And am I going to get that feedback again? Right? So we get into that silent thing. So we get into doing instead of being. Find our purpose in our actions. We find our purpose in what we are, our goals and families and those things. And that becomes the busyness in us. That becomes the overwhelming in us, right? And so we had to do our part because we need to look capable, we need to feel value, and we need to be needed. Are we going to miss out? No, we're not. If someone tells us what we're doing, are we going to? Probably no, we're probably not going to admit it, right? And so what we're doing unintentionally is we're holding our breath. We are holding our emotional breath. We are holding our feelings, and we may know it because we're moving so fast. And if we stop long enough, we're going to feel all those emotions, and now we're not in control. And the last thing we want to be is not in control of our emotions. Because remember, we're the child who got it, or we were the child who was in survival mode, who still has to take care of ourselves. All right. So I want to talk about the consequences because I went through kind of why we're like this. And I'm saying we because I'm included in me, right? I understand because I understand, right? I'm going to talk to you about the consequences of operating in that survival space. The consequence is because we start to internalize our stress. And can I tell you that internalization becomes physical, can I tell you that now we start to have maybe some medical problems, or we start to have some physical reaction? We might have significant weight gain, weight loss. I know when I was internalizing my stress and I didn't know it at the time, my face was filled with acne. That was my stress response. I didn't even know I had a stress response of acne, but I learned then it was really bad, face peeling. It was horrible. But that was my stress reaction, right? We internalize those feelings, right? The other thing that happens is that we end up having anxiety, we have depression, loneliness, and resentment. So I want to be clear about kind of those things, and I'm not going to go into them too much here, but when I have anxiety, that's the I want to go, right? Maybe it's a DSM, I can diagnose anxiety, it's really bad, and I know and I can feel it, right? Or it can be the, you know what, I have to keep moving. My mind is constantly going. I can't sleep well without having some help, right? Or maybe I just don't want the help and I just can't fall asleep, or I can't stay asleep. That's the anxiety. The depression, and most may know this, but depression is either we high function or we low function. So high function depression, these are my go-getters. These are my busy people. These are my people who have successes, but they don't stop and smell the success because they're ready for the next success and they're ready for the next thing. These are the high functioning people with depression. All right. And then the other ways of depression is stuff that's kind of commonly thought of in terms of depression. Can't get up out of bed, not doing basic care needs, not taking care of your home. These are the consequences of when we internalize our feelings, when we internalize our reaction to things. This is what happens. These are the consequences of that. Okay. Loneliness. We can either have loneliness by being sad, or we can have loneliness by forget it, I don't need nobody, don't call me, I'm gonna call you, right? So either we're going in survival or we're going to go into being sad about that. But either way, the feeling has not changed. We're feeling lonely, right? And then we might get resentful. I was there for you, but you weren't there for me. When I need you, you're busy and you'll call me back later, but I don't hear from you either ever or a few days. We get those resentment feelings. And then no one is available for us. That's the feeling, right? No one's available, right? If you all think of some other consequences, drop in the chat. Let me know something else that I missed in terms of what's the consequence when we are silent. So I want to talk to you about kind of what to do, but I want to normalize one thing before I kind of get there in terms of what to do and how to manage this. One, I want to be realistic, is that this is something that has to be purposeful and intentional to deal with. I mean, is this something that we can just stop and this could be a solved problem? Not really, because life is going to hit us. We all have different things that we deal with. So it's not really that type of thing to do that, but it can become less intense when the consequences went over either becomes so minor that you don't even notice it, or that maybe might feel like it's gone away for a little while. It's dormant for a minute. Okay. So I'm not suggesting that this is not something, hey, just do this and the problem is gone. No, but the goal is let's minimize it. And the other thing is we can also put some stuff in place to help minimize it. So for example, in terms of loneliness and no one's there, I have busy friends. I'm busy, right? And we might have to text the schedule, when are you free to talk? We're really going to have to put that down. Like, hey, are you free at this time to chat for a little bit? And no, I'm free here, though. We can talk here. Okay. And in my mind, I know our chat is probably limited to, a reasonable amount of time. That is, I mean, I can be on the phone for hours and hours, right? So those things like, I do have someone there. I just need to have a look different because of my lifestyle and the other person's lifestyle. All right, so what I want you to do in terms of silent and suffering, the goal is not to be silent and suffering, right? That is the goal. Do I think that you need to blast all of your business to everyone through a text, social media, phone call, family and friends? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm suggesting. That is not what I'm talking about. I think you have to earn the right to hear your story. People have to earn the right to hear your story. And they have to earn the right to be able to hold it and also to give you information that you find valuable to you. So they have to earn that. So no, I'm not suggesting that you go and shout your story to everyone. That's not what I want you to do. But when you internalize it to the point that the consequences are so high, the anxiety, loneliness, depression, resentment, stress, any of those things, then that's when the price becomes too high. And say, okay, I need to shift my thinking so I'm no longer silent and suffering, is that I am vocal and I am action, right? I'm purpose driven, right? So whatever that looks like for me, and that's helpful. It may or may not always involve a second person. Sometimes it may, and sometimes it may not, right? So one thing I want you to do, this is the first thing, is that I want you to train your mind differently. I want you to train your mind in using your voice into what is actually positive, what is actually beneficial for you, what is actually something that you need. So let's start with the simple things. What are your positive thoughts about yourself? What do you bring to the table? Now, at some point in time, when someone say, "What are your strengths?" I'm like, that. I don't know. That. I don't know. But if I would have paid attention back in those days, back in that time, now I can probably talk a little bit better about my strengths than I can back in the day. But if I would have listened better and paid more attention and been more in tune with me, I probably would have answered that question a lot better. So, what is it that people are saying about me? What feedback am I getting at work? Because at that time, work and school, my life. What feedback am I getting? Why are my friends my friends? Why do we connect? Right? What is it that I'm bringing to the table? We can start there in terms of what is it that's a positive person or positive about me. And if you're not sure, who do you resonate with and why? Because if you resonate with someone in a positive way, those are probably characteristics of you that are laid dormant that you are not tapping into. Now, you don't have to know what to do with it. You just have to know that it's there. When you know that it's there, we're already dealing with the silence. We're already giving that silence a voice. All right. So the second thing I want you to do is I want you to look at things through a new lens, right? So maybe people aren't available as much as they used to be. Maybe our lives are different. So guess what? Now I have the opportunity to create other relationships. I have opportunity to look into new things. I have opportunities to take on a hobby. I have opportunity to learn more about my body, whether it's exercise, whether it's nutrition, whether it's mental health, maybe it's meditation, maybe just going, whatever. I have the opportunity now to do more things I didn't do before. And so what are you doing? You're tapping into that silence and you're tapping into that suffering, and you're also handling those consequences that I just told you about. And do you notice we haven't involved anyone yet? We haven't involved anyone yet. This is about training your own mind and looking in a new lens. Now, so one of my taglines is that I want women to increase your boundaries and strengthen your relationships, and to feel overwhelmed. I'm sorry, decrease feeling overwhelmed, right? And so another way to do that is monitor what boundaries are. It's not an all or nothing. It's not either we talk all the time or we talk never, right? It's not either you there for me or you're not. That's no boundary. That's an all or nothing, right? And that's also unrealistic. And it also increases your level of consequences that you have. So have some place in the middle, right? So what do my boundaries look like in terms of my using my voice? Where do I want to use it? How do I want to use it? How often do I want to use it? Think about it in terms, I'll give myself an example. I see clients for therapy. So I know how many clients I want to see a week, how many clients I want to see a day. And after that, I'm full, right? That's my boundary. What I can give, and I'm not. Doing this Facebook, I said, okay, I'm going to do every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Some people may do lives randomly throughout the day, just when they feel like it. That's fine. That's fine. That's their jam. But for me, I need to have it a little bit more planned. Some people like, I'm doing a live every day. That works for them. Great. For me, my boundary, I just want Wednesdays at 6. It works for me, right? So what is your boundary in terms of what you're going to share, how much you're going to share? And can I tell you that connection does not require the full story? A real grown woman conversation, a real grown woman talk does not involve the woman telling the entire story. That part is not required, right? Because if you're having a talk with a grown woman, she's going to understand the emotional depths of what you're talking about without going into a he said and she said and I did and they did. Because if you have to go into all that, you may not be having a grown woman conversation. Girlfriend conversations are good and fun and they should be funny. But if you need to have a real grown woman conversation because you are silent and suffering, it does not necessarily have to involve the full story. All right. So I want you to use your gift and I want you to show your purpose. Now, that small statement is really a big one, right? Because it's like, what's my gift and what's my purpose? We start small. Start small. I posted a day in memory of when I did my first women's workshop back in 2018. The only reason I did this, I promise you all, the only reason I did that workshop is because I knew I had a voice and I knew women needed a space. That was it. I wanted to create the space. I wanted to create the conversations. That was it. So I just hope people showed up and people got something out of it. That was, those were my two goals. That was all. And then afterwards, the response was good. And I'm like, oh, part of me was like, oh, glad you all enjoyed it. But it was deeper than that I did not anticipate. And then some people were like, do you have a private practice? No. I don't have a private practice. Then I said, you know what? If I do this workshop again, I want to be able to have an aftercare plan. I want to be able to have a space for women to go to process if they want to after the group. Thus, my private practice was born. And I had no intention of that at the moment. And that's what I'm saying, like, just use your gift and show your purpose. And you start where you are comfortable. I started using my voice by doing direct selling in 31. Because I wasn't used to using my voice. That wasn't my thing. I said, well, let me start small and private. And now I'm doing lives on social media. Go figure. But if you have any comments, please drop them in the chat. We'll love to hear them. If you are catching this later on, #replay, like, share, comment. And I will be here every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Grown Woman Chat. In the meantime, keep moving those expectations. I will talk to you all later.